morning, everyone. If you clicked on this video, you might be wondering, what does the bubonic plague and the AIDS epidemic have to do with each other? And what is Delta 32? I'm going to start with the bubonic plague, also known as the Black Death. I'm assuming most of you have at least a general knowledge of what that is. Killed, decimated between 1/3 and 1/2 of the entire population of Europe. The bubonic plague had almost 100% mortality rate. The interesting part here isn't the fact that so many people died. The most extraordinary part of this are the people who survived. So I'm going to take you now to a small town in England called Ames. During this time when the outbreak was severe, and of course there wasn't just one outbreak, but during one of these times the whole town kind of shut down. Someone got it in the town. The odd thing about this town specifically is there was an unusually high number of survivors. There are several stories, specific cases in question here that were miraculous recoveries or complete avoidance of the plague, period. Fast forward to modern day with DNA testing, and we had some researchers who wanted to know what kept these people alive. There were actually still descendants who lived in the same city. So what happened is that they tested for DNA, and they found something very specific on the CCR5 gene, which was a mutation that kept the person from dying from it. And in some cases, it actually kept the person from even acquiring it to begin with. Once it hit the town, these people didn't just lock themselves up in their houses and refuse to come out. They had family members who caught it and died right in front of their eyes. They had family friends who they would visit to give supplies to. There were people who would go around and pick up the bodies of the dead. Everyone in the town was exposed. So it was quite special that they didn't all succumb to the plague. This mutation, called Delta 32, was first found genetically about 700 years ago, around the time the plague first started to hit Europe. Then we want to fast forward and bring us to modern times. In the past 2 decades, there have been 18 million plus AIDS-related, HIV-related deaths. This is the most amount of deaths since the plague, and this is one epidemic that has taken so many lives, similar to the plague. The curious thing about this situation is the Black Plague and the AIDS virus have a lot in common. It attacks the body in similar ways. They found people who survived or did not contract HIV or AIDS, similar to the residents of Ames in England who never contracted it. They tested these individuals to see what was different about their gene structure that allowed them to not get this terrible, virus that has no cure. They found something very interesting when they looked at these people's genes. They found the Delta 32 mutation on the people who weren't contracting it. There's definitely a link between the two, and the plague and the AIDS epidemic. What's happening right now is you are able to go and you can be tested. You can look up online a testing site to see if you carry the Delta 32 mutation. But what they're trying to do with that information is create a sort of a gene therapy, trying to recreate the mutation within an affected person's DNA, and trying to see if they can create that within other people, then perhaps it will block off getting the virus, or for people that already have it, which is who they're trying on, allow them to be cured, to survive, specifically in places like Africa, where there are countries such as Uganda that is just hugely impacted by the AIDS epidemic. Of course, we have it still, obviously in the United States. It's a little bit more manageable for those in the United States for the most part, because we have more access to drugs, but it's still not cured. It would be interesting to see if the mutation was widespread, how that would affect contracting it, if people would survive, or if the gene would then mutate, or the virus would mutate and evolve to counteract the gene. So what do you think? Do you think it would be a good idea to give everyone the gene so that no one would have it? Or do you think that, it doesn't matter either way, because, where there's a virus, there's a way, and if it's not the AIDS virus, another virus will come along? It's a tough question to answer, because then you have to start picking between who should and who shouldn't, and that's an awkward question to answer. This is something that a lot of people, could benefit from, and hopefully if you watch this video, you're not personally afflicted by the HIV AIDS epidemic, but if you are, I hope maybe this gave you some hope for finding a cure.